If you could go back and change one thing about your podcast journey, what would it be?
I would hire a team.
Well, y'all.
I would actually, if I could go back and start all over again, I would hire a producer and I would hire a team to do all the work for me so that all I had to do is just do the interviews. This is the Healthy Lifestyle Solutions podcast, and I'm your host, Maya Acosta. If you're willing to go with me, together we can discover how simple lifestyle choices can help improve our quality of life. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Healthy Lifestyle Solutions podcast. This is Maya Acosta and
Dr. Riz.
Today we hit 300 episodes.
That's a lot of episodes. It's hard to imagine.
All right. So we're going to start with rapid fire questions that we're going to ask each other. And this is just to break the ice and to see what the other thinks.
What advice would you give to someone who is just starting a podcast today?
Oh my God. There is so much work. I'm going to say, know that you're getting into a lot of work. And if you can afford it, hire a team from the get-go, because you will get burned out real quick.
Okay, if you could go back and change one thing about your podcast journey, what would it be?
I would hire a team.
Well, y'all.
I would actually, if I could go back and start all over again, I would hire a producer and I would hire a team to do all the work for me so that all I had to do is just do the interviews.
Well, those two kind of went together. So, okay, I get to ask another question. What's one topic that you haven't covered on the show yet, but would love to explore in the future?
I think I'm covering most of the topics, and we'll talk about how the podcast has changed, but I really like the topic of women's health. And I most recently had a topic that can be considered taboo with an expert who talked about the use of vibrators as medical devices. And that was a topic that I was hesitant about bringing up on the show. And then I decided to go for it. And because I think that there are many things that women suffer with that especially women don't talk about. And if women don't talk about it, no one else is working on solving the solution. I touch on mental health. I talk about stress because that's a big one that we face. And there is one that I actually had thought about bringing on the show, which is work equity in the home. Shared responsibilities in the home. And that's because I heard that episode somewhere else. And I thought, I'd like to bring that guest on and talk about that.
What was the most surprising thing you learned while recording 300 episodes of the Healthy Lifestyle Solutions podcast?
The one thing that surprised me the most is that I really like doing this work, that I really like running a podcast. I remember when I was younger, I would listen to talk radio. And I always liked DJs because back in the days, the DJs would talk on the radio, not just play the music. And I remember being interested in journalism and things like that, like in college. But what surprised me the most is that had I known I love this field, I probably would have studied it.
Okay. All right. And here's your last one. Apart from me, what was your favorite guest or episode and why?
I think you'll know this one. My favorite guest was Dr. McDougall, Dr. John McDougall, who came on the show, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And very early on, he might have been like episode 12 or something. I don't remember. I think what surprised me was that he said yes. I really hadn't had like big names, like well-known people, but how real he was, how passionate he is, how he said yes to the podcast, and how I just really like him. He's the person that turned me on to this whole lifestyle. So that's still my favorite episode.
Yeah, what I liked about that episode too was that he started to really focus too on the concept of environmentalism, which I think goes hand in hand with a lot of what we talk about anyways.
I don't talk so much about the environment on the podcast, but the environment is very important to me. All right. Tell me about your experience coming back on this show and now doing Monday segments that are titled Doctor in the House.
So I really like it. I like the idea that we're picking one topic and we're doing multiple episodes on that topic. So it really allows us to delve into it more deeply. And we can kind of divide it up into segments so that we can present that information to people in an organized manner.
Right.
And so it's just not all over the place. And so it gives us an opportunity to go more in depth over a period of time. So I've
Yep.
really been enjoying it.
Yep. That's true. What would you say if you had someone that came up and say, "Hey, I want to start a podcast"?
I think you got to just take it seriously. This isn't something that's done lightly, and you don't think you're just gonna, hey, tape record something and put it out there, and it's just gonna happen. Serious podcasting is a lot of work. I see you put in dozens of hours a week, probably 40, 50 hours a week just on your podcast work, and that can be anything from preparing for interviews, reading from about interviews, reading books, learning about who you're going to interview, doing the interviews, editing the interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I think if you want to be a serious podcaster, you got to realize how much time it's gonna take. And
Mm-hmm.
then, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people, they do one or two episodes and then they stop, and it's probably because I don't realize how much work it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So serious podcasting is a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna do a quick taking you back to the beginning. So you guys are gonna watch if you're watching the video or listen along with us as we play this one recording for you.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Riz and this is Maya. We are Plant-Based DFW. We are starting a podcast to share our experiences with you. We are from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, hence the DFW in Plant-Based DFW, but we also like to travel and we also spend a lot of time on our sailboat.
And so therefore, this is why we're doing a podcast, because we tend to travel more and have more access to other people that are plant-based.
Yeah, so whether it be from Dallas or in our travels or during our sailing, whenever we encounter some people with the plant-based lifestyle, we enjoy meeting them, and oftentimes we can get them to share their experiences with us.
So that's the Plant-Based DFW podcast.
All right.
With
so
Dr. Riz and Maya.
We're excited to get started and have you join us in this endeavor.
Right now, we are actually in Annapolis, Maryland, and we are here because...
So we came to the boat show, which is one of my passions. It's the 2018 U.S. Sailboat Show, which is the largest boat show in the United States. And so I've been like a kid in the candy store, and I had a really good time checking out the boats and all the ideas for boats. And and I even spent a little bit of money bringing some stuff back. And then also while we were here, we got to meet up with someone and do an interview.
That's right, for the podcast, of course. Again, tying in both of our passions, in a sense, sailing, or all things sailing with all things plant-based. And we also were able to meet some of the popular YouTube channels that we watch.
Yeah.
So that was exciting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we're wrapping it up. Today's the last day. We're flying back to Dallas. Last month, we were in San Diego as well.
Right.
On another trip where we also incorporated another interview with a plant-based physician. And you want to talk about San Diego?
Yeah, so that trip wasn't a sailing trip. That was actually for the Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference, one of our other passions. And so we had a good time in San Diego and got to meet a lot of the pioneers and our heroes in the field of plant-based nutrition.
Okay, so there you have it, our very first episode. What do you think, Dr. Riz?
Brings back a lot of memories. That it's amazing that we did our first episode in another city. The podcast is something that's in evolution.
Mm-hmm.
We started off, we're talking about sailing, we're talking about plant-based nutrition, doing some stuff when we're traveling, all the way to where you are today. And you've gone through some various iterations. And so there's been some, and I think that's probably natural.
So I recently was talking with my life coach, Michelle, and some stuff have come up. And I was telling her about how some of those earlier episodes, like I didn't really like. And, but I didn't delete them because I wanted to honor my guest. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like if somebody scraps your episode because you were one of the earlier ones, like that would suck. So I kept the stuff. And you can tell that there were some technical issues in that first episode. The editing was a little bit bad. But the interesting thing is those two interviews that we talked about, the Juice Lady and the interview in San Diego, we had a lot of technical problems with those. And I thought it'd be fun to talk about it because these things happen. Which one do you remember?
Well, I mean, even our first episode, I remember that we were only hearing each other out of one ear
Yeah.
because of the way we had it hooked up.
Yeah, that's the one we just watched.
Yeah.
That's the one I was talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, I was using a different recording device and I didn't know how to adjust it. So the sound is off in there. And we interviewed a girl, someone who I looked up before we got to Annapolis. She has a juice shop right there in that cute little area of Annapolis. And I scheduled an interview ahead of time. And I took my equipment after one of the days at the boat show. And I specifically said, do you think that we can record in a quiet place at your store and this and that? And she said, yes. Well, she didn't close the store. We sat next to a refrigerator. We kept being interrupted by customers that were coming in and out. The lighting was really bad. And it was so bad, I scrapped it. I never released that episode.
That's right. It was just kind of frustrating
Yeah.
because there was no continuity. You really couldn't just get a rhythm or a flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and she didn't really sit down and devote some time to you to give you time for a podcast.
Right. And back then, I don't even know if she knew what a podcast was, but I mean, it's like I used to record more on location. I don't do that anymore because there are so many interruptions in the immediate surroundings. So the other one was in San Diego with a chiropractor that we met.
Mm-hmm.
And he reached out and said he wanted to come on the podcast. So we went over there after Plantrition in 2018, our very last day. And he didn't tell us that he was in the path of the airport planes. Like he didn't the path. So every 5 minutes, we could hear an airplane going above us.
Yeah, and not only that, his office was right next door to a gym where people were playing basketball, and you could hear the balls bouncing off the walls and stuff like
Yes.
that. So,
Yeah. It was so frustrating because those are distractions. And so that's what happened early on. I was also recording local people a lot more, so I would take my gear and I would interview at their locations. And that became a lot of work for me. And then over time, I started interviewing people outside of our city. And so, yeah, the podcast evolved. So we did it, we started it late 2018, did a lot of interviews in 2019. And then when things started to change was during the pandemic, 2020. I didn't really have a structure, but I started interviewing a lot of people that were not in the immediate area because we were not gathering. And that's how my outreach began to spread outside of our city. And then in 2021, I actually felt like giving up. We got Poppy, our miniature pincher, and he was 5 months old when we got him. And I remember there was so much we had to potty train him. He also used to cry whenever you'd go to work. So it was like having a newborn in the house. It was so stressful that when I was interviewing a potential team, I actually told him that I didn't want to actually have the podcast anymore. Like I couldn't manage both things.
he doesn't bother us as much.
He's older. He's only 2 years old, but now because he sees me recording a lot, he just sleeps on this couch. This couch I kind of got for him. So it turns into a bed.
I think he's just chilling out. I think he probably sees when you get this all set up, he knows it's time to just chill out while you do your work.
Yeah, he knows. Anyway, that's some of the stuff that happened in 2021. I hired a team in 2022, and then they took me all the way through this year in February, and then I switched teams. But that team rebranded me. We decided to come up with a new name, and it was you guys, the listeners, that helped me pick the name, the design, the logo, the cover, like based on my photographs. And I liked that so much that when I decided to add a segment inviting Riz back as a guest expert, you guys helped me pick the title of the segment and then the photo that I should use, Dr. Riz's photo. And then that's kind of like how it's evolved.
Mm-hmm.
I've had listeners helping out.
Yeah, I really like the format now.
Yeah. So now I'm releasing 3 episodes a week. So we're celebrating 300 episodes the day that this airs. I really wanted to do a live recording. I wanted to go on YouTube Live and interact, but I have so much work. I didn't have time to plan it or promote it or anything like that.
I really look forward to continuing to do Doctor in the House.
Right.
Because I think that there's just a lot of topics that we can cover. I enjoy breaking them down. And what I really would like is that give us your questions and then we can directly address them. It brings up interesting topics for discourse.
Yeah.
And so we would love to hear from you on that stuff.
Before I forget, we are going to the National Health Association's conference in June. I want to say that's June 23rd to the 25th in Cleveland, Ohio. We are going to have a meetup there. We're also going to have a booth as pod leaders. We're going to have a gathering with other pod leaders there, Plan Pure pod leaders. And on top of that, the tickets for the virtual conference just came out, and I would love it if you guys are interested in, I'm going to put a link in the show notes, but if you're interested in attending the virtual, I want to say it's going to run from like June 23rd through or 22nd through the 25th. And you can register for the conference. If you're not available to attend that moment, like on that particular time on Friday, for example, because you're at work, you actually will have access to the recordings.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a link. It is an affiliate link, but it's a link that you can use if you want to sign up under us. And it's bit.ly/, and then the rest are going to be capital NHADRRIZ. So NHA Dr. Riz, all capital, like NHADRRIZ. And that's the link that takes you to our affiliate link. And then right now, the tickets for the virtual are only $97.
Yeah, that's quite a deal. If you don't get to attend this in person, which I think it's pretty much already sold out anyways,
Right.
For a great fee, a great deal here, you can either listen to it live or come back and listen to it at your leisure. And I just, I think it's a very affordable opportunity.
The virtual conference is $97. The prices go up June 1st to about $127. So you might as well get the ticket now. Also, I believe we're going to have a virtual space, you and I, Dr. Riz, so that we can have a gathering virtually with some of the attendees. And also, just as a teaser, who are some of the speakers that are going to speak for NHA, which is exciting. So you might have heard of Dr. Kim Williams, who is a cardiologist, Dr. Joel Furman, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, Dr. Esser, and then, of course, we have Mark and Wanda Huberman, who will be there as well. And then Brittany Giroudi, who is more of an influencer. She has a YouTube channel. She teaches people how to make delicious meals. Anything else that you're looking forward to?
I'm just really looking forward to the conference in general. This will be our first NHA conference. We've been talking about it for years, and it's a great organization, and we've always wanted to go to the meetings and participate and be a part of it.
Yeah.
I'll even throw in a plug for their cruises. They have plant-based cruises where you can go and enjoy yourself, and I know that I'll be hopping on one of those boats in the next couple of years myself.
Yep. Yeah. They also have like this beautiful newsletter that they release 4 times a year. I just kind of want to mention that this past weekend, we had EarthX 2023 here in Dallas at the Fair Park. And that's one of the largest environmental expos in the country. And I got invited to do a certain segment of interviews as some of the speakers were coming off stage, and that was a lot of fun. It was back-to-back interviews. I've never done anything like that. It was on behalf of a recording studio, not mine, but it was a great experience to do that. And then the next day we returned, and you and I went.
Yeah, I had a great time there. In fact, I didn't get to spend enough time looking around. There's just so many different interesting booths and topics and things to learn about, and you start talking with people, and suddenly 15, 20, 30 minutes have gone by, and I go, oh my goodness, I got 50 more booths I want to hit up and learn. But it was great, and I really liked the expo.
Yeah, it was great. And that was also our first time attending. Anyway, I'm sure that there's so much more that we can share. If you're interested in joining our newsletter, visit this link, bit.ly/join Dr. Riz. And that's DRRIZ. And then follow us on social media. I am at Healthy Lifestyle Solutions, and you are at
Dr. Riz Bukhari, but it's Dr. Dr_Riz, R-I-Z_Bukhari, Bukhari.
So it'll be fun if we keep doing this podcast to go back and then look at episode 300 and see how we did this recording compared to the first one.
Stick around for episode 600.
All right, everyone. I hope that you celebrate with us. Leave a comment in our social media because I'm going to do a post about episode 300. We are redesigning our website. We're moving away from the name Plant-Based DFW, and we'll let you know what the new name is. But we are redesigning the website, and I am looking for testimonies to put on the website. If you feel like you have benefited from adopting a plant-based lifestyle, or incorporating pillars of lifestyle medicine and you want to be featured on our website, please send me a message. Let me know that you want to be considered and I can record you like this, like almost like a guest for the website. So hit me up with that as well. All right. Thank you, Dr. Riz, for joining me today.
Thank you, Maya. I've enjoyed it.
All right. You've been listening to the Healthy Lifestyle Solutions podcast with your host, Maya Acosta. If you've enjoyed this podcast, do us a favor and share with one friend who can benefit from this episode. Feel free to leave an honest review as well at ratethispodcast.com/HLS. This helps us to spread our message. And as always, thank you for being a listener.